Welcome to another episode of Angels, Positivity, and Love. I'm your host, Michael Andre Ford in San Antonio, Texas. We have a wonderful guest. I'd like to welcome him to the show, Peter Matthieses in Santa Barbara, California.
Wonderful to be here, Michael.
And we're going to get to his background in just 1 second, and he's going to share a lot with us today. I'm super excited about this episode. But first, a quick public service announcement. Please enjoy these episodes. We are at maybe 42 episodes booked. A lot of well-known healers, experts, authors, show hosts, and so on coming on board. Echo Bodine has said yes. Jennifer McLean. I've just talked to Sarah McLean, not to confuse the two. They are not sisters, but we might even get lucky this year with Sarah McLean coming on. And there's more. Dr. Evan Alexander, Karen Newell, both of them came on and taped. You'll see them September 17th. They also took about 30 minutes doing incredible stuff at the end of the show. So I wanted to mention, it's not just the guest coming on, sharing their wisdom, their life experiences, and their amazingness, and lots of good advice for us all. They also are taking steps sometimes, talking with angels and so on. So stick around to the end of these shows. You're going to see some amazingness, and you're basically going to get a shot in the arm of confidence that you can trust your own inner instincts. And I think that's something we're going to hear from Peter in just a second. So remember to share, like, subscribe. And I want to thank you in advance for being part of this audience for an amazing streak this year. Peter, welcome to the show, Angels, Positivity, and Love. Thanks for your patience for that. It's great to see you again.
Thanks so much. I look forward to watching these shows.
Would you like to start either with maybe a life-changing story or something? What impacted how you suddenly viewed consciousness and why you needed to, you were a big business person. You were at Apax, which is, venture capital, private equity. You started off at Anderson, which is now known as Accenture. You've had a lot of business experience. You're from Germany originally. You're now in Santa Barbara. You founded the Conscious Business Institute in 2005. People can find that at www.consciousbusinessinstitute.com. You already have 2 books under the belt with a third in the works. I just heard about www.planbe.live or live, L-I-V-E. But Plan B is the book that's in progress now. And you've written 100 articles, whether it's finance, tech, martial arts, finance, and so on. And you are, again, super attuned to bringing more awareness, more consciousness to the workplace, both business individuals and the collective. So how did this kind of all come about?
As it usually is, through my own pain. I was in the workplace and I was successful but dissatisfied. And I found myself at a point where I was coming home one night and my wife was asking, do you want to go to the movies or do you want to go out to eat? And I said, well, either way is fine. And I said that many times before, but this time it shocked me to the bones because I realized I said it because I was so disconnected from myself that I couldn't make a decision. I didn't know what I wanted to eat or have or watch a movie. So I was overworked, I was burning out, my relationship was going sideways, and I was asking myself, isn't there a better way to work and live for many years? What's my purpose? What do I want to create in this world? So at some point in time, after journeying back and forth, I decided to quit everything, my relationship at that time, because as I said, it was going sideways, my home country, my career. And I said, I need to move to a place that's nurturing for me, where I can explore a little bit more and where I can create a way to work and live that's more sustainable. Not for me, more life-giving, but for business at large. Because our world is changing. And if we continue doing as we do, it's just not sustainable going forward. So long story short, I packed 2 bags in 2003 and left Germany and moved to Santa Barbara and started from a green field. Made my life an experience. And experiment.
I love it. And you haven't looked back and you've taken off with what you do. You've helped companies with over 100,000 employees. Siemens is in there, BMW and others, Morgan Stanley, Allianz, Siemens, Intel, and so on. Talk to us again. That's, 2 bags and switching to Santa Barbara. And then how did it come about that you wanted to focus on awareness, consciousness, being?
Yeah, well, the being always pulled me because I knew somehow that there was a different way of being that was kind of hidden behind a veil, and I couldn't quite access it. Like so many people that I talk to, they know there's a better way to work and live, and we can't quite access it. And I wanted to break through that veil and actually get to that, because I saw in the business world that there are maybe 5 or 10% of the people in our world who are totally in the flow. They're like fish in water. They love what they do. They're successful at it, while 95% of us are struggling with money, with time, and we're just hustling along, trying to get ahead. And that to me is not working. And so you said I wasn't looking back. I was looking back for quite some time, because when I moved to Santa Barbara at first, I had a great time. I had some money in the bank. Sun was shining. I could do everything I wanted. But I realized that within 6 months, I've recreated the same experience in my life, although I was starting completely from scratch. I had the same amount of overwork. I had the same frustrations. I had the same feeling of life that I had when I was living in Germany. So at that point, I was asking myself, why do we tend to recreate the same experience in our life over and over and over again? What's really going on? What is the consciousness that's creating that? And so that's how I really got involved into the consciousness realm. And I looked back many times, because quite frankly, building the Conscious Business Institute, when not knowing what conscious business was, it wasn't around at that time. There was no conscious business book or anything. I was deeply afraid. So what am I doing here? Is this ever going to work out? Am I wasting the most precious years of my life, or is this ever going to turn into something? So it took about 7 years until this actually came to a point where I had more substantiated client engagements with BMW, for example. So along the valley of death, that I called it, if we find our authenticity or if we find our purpose.
Did you have moments like in the middle of the night where you would wake up with some sort of a vision or dream? Or did you walk around your place or have just something that the universe was stepping in saying there's more, reminders, synchronicities, outright, I hate to say angels exist. I don't want to tell anybody anything. I believe everyone should do their own work, their listening, their own opening up. That's the best format or method, no interference. But can you share a couple personal anecdotes that we can relate to?
Yeah, I mean, so many along the way, I can't even tell. And I'm an engineer by training. So I was always somewhat open to these things, whether it's angel or something else, but I had many interferences. I'll just share a couple with them. I was sitting on a plane from New York to Charlotte, giving a workshop in both towns, and so it was 6 o'clock in the morning. I caught an early plane in Newark, and I still remember I was sitting by the window dozing, and in that dozing and being kind of half checked out, this Inside Conscious Business Institute appeared right in front of my eyes, and for an hour I received downloads and downloads and downloads, what it's supposed to be, what it's supposed to grow into. And I was in that moment wide awake, knowing that this is what I'm here to do with my life. So there's an intervention right there that changed the trajectory of my life up until today. A couple of years later, I was by the pool in Napa Valley. I had jogged through the wine hills there, and for some reason, I had so much energy. I could jog up and down, and it was just full of energy. It was this moment of abundance of bliss, I would say. And so I was going back to my hotel, laying by the pool, and I was just feeling connected to everything in that moment. And in that moment, I asked the question, what really constitutes an organization that's healthy, a thriving business? And again, I saw in front of my eyes the circle with the 4 quadrants that makes up our methodology that we're bringing into the world. And I've since then validated it with hundreds of leaders from all walks of life. And they said, oh my God, if we can build this kind of an organization, it's it. And maybe a last anecdote, when I was moving to Santa Barbara during the first months of transitioning, I was waking up every morning at 3 o'clock in the morning or so. I could set the clock, and I couldn't go back to sleep. And first I was bucking it. I was saying, I need to sleep. I need to wake up in the morning. I need to get back to doing something. And eventually I realized I need to give in. And so I started listening. And every night that I was there was some nugget, there was some insight, there was something that was given to me when I started opening my ears and actually started listening and being at peace with being awake 3 to 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. So when we listen, there's something there.
Okay, now this is a really geeky question. I normally don't go this direction, but it's geeky. Do you get your answers back then, both in English and German? Would it just depend on the moment? Was it mostly English, is what I'm assuming? But once in a while, to drive the point home, did you hear it in another? You probably have a couple of languages under the belt. Did you hear it different ways to really get your attention?
I wouldn't even remember. I think many of them were in English, but many of them were also just sensations,
Like a
like
vibration coming in?
vibration, hearing or seeing something without knowing that you hear or see it, or whether there's a language annotated to it. It's just a knowingness that appears right there. So
Oh.
I wouldn't even remember whether it was German or English.
Okay, now I ask this usually towards the end of the show, but let's do it now. If stuff like this happens, usually a lot of us get panicky, like you said, try to bucket. And so we sometimes either reach for the living experts or authors up there on the bookshelf. Was there anybody you retreated to right away for safety that you enjoyed? You still look at the book today that you would recommend to anyone? Obviously, we've got Plan B coming out, BE. That's your book, but is there anybody out there that has been a old faithful, a safe zone of advice that you have enjoyed?
Yeah, as mentioned, I was always interested in these kind of subjects, in the real matters of life. Why do we exist? Those kind of things. So there were a couple of books which have been steadfast companions for me. One was Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth, which I love the book. But even earlier was a series of book by Tom Brown Jr. You got it up there?
Yeah, two copies.
There it is. Yeah.
And who was the second?
Tom
I
Brown.
don't think I've heard that name.
Yeah, Tom Brown Jr. is a guy who was, he's in New Jersey as a wilderness awareness school, and he was educated by a Native American elder, by an Apache elder, who obtained a vision at the age of 16 to walk the lands. And so from the age of 16 to 96, he was walking the lands and living up the land from Alaska down to Brazil. And this elder was so connected with the earth. I'm getting goosebumps here, that it's really unimaginable in our world. And so he found this young guy at the age of 65 and trained him for 20 years. Mm. And Tom Brown Jr. has since written, I think, 14, 15 books. He has this wilderness awareness school. And to read about that experience and to read about the connection with the earth, the possibilities that we can access if we actually go into those different realms, was just absolutely mind-blowing to me on one hand, but on the other hand, it was like coming home. There was a knowingness that this is how we are supposed to live.
Interesting. Okay, so you actually have now checked another box, which is retreats. And I did want to mention, as a total aside, there's like 1440 Multiversity out there. There's Esalen, there's Kripalu. I slaughter the names all the time. So if I've mispronounced it, I apologize. Omega Institute. I got to go there last summer for the first time and do a 3-day workshop. But I just learned that Findhorn Foundation up in Scotland, which has been around for a long time, is actually going under this fall. It's hard to do, businesses after a pandemic. And so I thought I'd mention that. But are there retreats that you wanted to share that still are viable, that you've enjoyed, that you think are could be universally enjoyed by the audience? And I know you've been to Italy. I know you've been to a lot of other fun places. And I know I just thought of that seconds before we started the show. What could you share with us that was either formative, reassuring? I know there are silent retreats as well. I don't know if you've done those, but I'm assuming you have.
In some way, I've done vision quests. So to sit out in nature 4 days, 4 nights, without eating or drinking anything and just being by yourself out in nature. That was one of the most life-changing experiences I had. But if I look at retreats, I like mandali.org, which is in northern Italy. It's been founded by 2 Dutch people, and it's a beautiful place where we can retreat. We do conscious leadership retreats there at times. We do our own retreats at the Conscious Business Institute that are associated with our Conscious Business Master Program. So for people who want to bring consciousness into the business world, we have a program that lasts for 9 months, which is life-changing. And we concluded with a retreat. Usually this time I was in Portugal. So we rented a big villa, had a cook there, ate Mediterranean food, and just made an amazing experience there. But there are so many out there these days that I couldn't even start listing them.
Okay. So 2 quick things. What type of business person should be considering your retreat, considering your material? You've got a free course. I want to mention this. I never can pronounce the name right, but Udemy. So you've got a free offering there if people get on. Obviously, there's other offerings you've got, but I think it's like a 35-minute, 25-minute free course people can take to talk about consciousness in the workplace. But what type of business person are we talking about should be interested, should be paying attention more to what this is all about?
Yeah, I would say the business person that feels the pull. And usually it doesn't matter whether it's a CEO or an entry level, it doesn't matter. We're all professionals on some level, but the professional who has an itch that they can't quite reach, that something is missing, that we wake up in the middle of the night saying, is this what I want to be doing with my life? Or is there a more fulfilling, a more life-giving way to conduct business and get ahead in life? Those of you who are that, you know who I'm talking to. When we work with organizations, what we ask for is an openness and a willingness to learn. So an openness to explore things that we're not familiar with, so that we can explore new areas of consciousness, and a willingness to go there. And those two things are prerequisites for us. If we are shut down, it's a waste of time and for both of us. So it doesn't matter the level, it doesn't matter who it is, just the curiosity, the openness, and the willingness to explore better ways.
Okay, and we're going to go in that direction in just one second. Sort of the openness and awareness, consciousness, the fun in life, and the fun in business. When 1 + 1 = 11 or 111 or bigger, and it doesn't have to make sense to make sense. That's here, unlimited creativity and all the rest. And then there's shutdown and you know what you know, but you're precluding possibility. I'm shocked. And if it's Casablanca, I've said this in 5 other shows this year, you're shocked to see there's gambling going on up in this casino. A lot of poker chips, a lot of thinking, a lot of knowing, again, to the preclusion of our own growth, collective growth and awareness. But a quick sidestep, just your 4-day vision quest, where did you do those? And is there a moment in those that you could also share? I know this is going to be personal, but maybe it's something that you can just, you still think back to it. It's just one of those things that is so formative. Anytime you hit a hard patch, you can just think back to that and you get back on track.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about the first one because that was the most profound one that I did. I did it with Malcolm Ringwald, who was one of the first students of this Tom Brown author that I mentioned earlier. He lives in Montana. And so I traveled to Montana, through Canada to Montana, and we were sitting out there in the backcountry in Montana. And there are many moments. This is now 30 years ago. So, my God, 30 years ago, yeah. And I can still remember the dreams that I had there vividly. I mean, it's so present, it's so alive what I experienced there, that's in those dreams. There are a couple of experiences that stuck out. The first one is very physical kind of a thing, because it was when we sit there, the first thing that we do in the vision quest, or that I did in this case, realizing that it's 96 hours that we're sitting there. And so you start sitting down in the morning and you look around and you look at the trees out there, and you start out from the outside, and eventually you take maybe an hour or so to come back in. And then eventually an hour later, you're with the ants in front of you, and you realize how nature functions a little bit. And you realize that you're 1 hour into 96 hours. And you're going, holy cow, I'm done. What shall I do with the rest of this now? So the most profound thing that happened right away for me is to understand how slow nature works, how at the pace of nature. We understand that we are fast. We understand that we are way too fast as human beings, but I have no clue the actual pace of nature. And to connect to that pace of nature was very healing for me. The second thing that I realized, that suddenly there was a key appearing. I was waking up in the morning and suddenly there was a key there. I didn't bring anything out there, and suddenly there was a key appearing there. So weird things that were coming out of nowhere, where I said, what's going on here? From dreams to insights to physical experiences to these physical manifestations.
And the key was, could you just elaborate one more? What did you decide the meaning of the key was?
It was for me to move, to move houses, because it was a key to an old house which I wanted to give up, and so I decided to do that. And it was coincidentally because out of the vision quest, when you sit in silence, there is such a clarity that's with you, which I didn't have since then. So when I went back to Carmel, I flew to Carmel and I said, I want to find a place in Carmel to stay for a year or so. So I opened up the paper and there was this, I mean, hundreds of ads, and one stuck out and just beamed at me and said, okay, click, call this guy up. He said, well, we have this house. We didn't want to rent it, but you can have it for $1,000 a month or so. So within one call, within one insight, I had what I wanted. So the ability to create and have the clarity to be connected to a higher realm, I mean, we can create so many things if that's the case.
So that's a really big point. We're going to be coming back to that in a little bit, but I want to read one quick quote, 2 sentences here. In American society, we think something is happening when there's talking. In Native American tribes, something is happening when there is silence. With that, you touched on probably one of the biggest themes I can think of, which is relax. The universe is really big. Step out of your own way. Put your notions forward that where you would like to go, where you think you'd like to go. Sometimes we're shocked and we go off to the right, but let the universe do its job. And I know The Alchemist talks about this. Universal forces are in place to help you out, whether it's angels, Native American guides, your ancestors, and so on. And I also know Abraham Hicks talks about this a lot as well. Abraham. Okay, so can you take that theme a little bit and share with us either your personal experiences as you were building a new life, building a new way to help others as your personal growth was happening, or in any direction on this sort of theme that you'd like to go?
Yeah, I'll speak personally, and I'll relate it to the book a little bit because I write about it in the book. The personal story is that all these things that happened to me in a state of being. I didn't need to do anything for it. Even the leadership speech, the conscious leadership speech that I've given probably 50 times around the world, came to me within 15 minutes. I was asking a question and I just got a download in 15 minutes, and then it was there, and I said, okay. And people said, this is genius. So if we just allow that space to create a being state where these things actually come through, it is so tremendously powerful. In the book, I write about a little bit more in the business or success context, because I write that our current model of success is not designed to make us happy. It's actually the reason for our suffering. It's to do more constantly, to accumulate more stuff so we become somebody. We do more, we get a degree, so we become a doctor. We do more, we accumulate money so we become happy or healthy or respected or something. And this model always pushes us to do more. So we're living in a doing addicted society where there's no space to be. Yeah, this model doesn't allow any space for being, or for the joy, for the fulfillment, for the inspiration that we are all seeking in our lives. It doesn't even show up in that model. Yeah. So if we want to step into a different world, we need to look at this model of success and realize that it's the reason for our suffering. We need to break away from this model and find a different one, which is the be do have model that I outline in the book.
Okay, so being by doing, or doing by being, or to be, not to be, if it's Shakespeare. I would just say, are you up here? Are you down here? And most of the time we're going to be up here. Good luck remembering that you have it all down here. With that, if you had to go full stop tomorrow, you suddenly get the itch. You're like, I got to do a retreat. I want to do a corporate retreat, not Portugal, this one, but somewhere else. Or you need a new book idea. You're like, it's not enough that I'm just finishing, Plan B, B-E, planb.live, for his website, www.planb.live. And so how would you go full stop to do that download, to do that presence first, to do that, okay, universe, I'm here, sock it to me? Can you just give us some practical tips? Is it light a candle, take a shower, go for a walk, take a nap first, get out of it so you can get here? What's your patented method, Peter Matthie's way of letting go and getting into your big heart?
That's good, because I had to train it for a long time. When I was a venture capitalist, I was trying to take little breaks on the bench in the park, and my brain just kept racing. It kept racing. I could not get down. I could not get down. And so for me to have it more of a daily practice rather than hustle, and then stop, for me, it is really important to be aware of when I'm losing my balance. And for me, personally, this is my personal makeup. I need to get out into nature. I need to be out on the water. I need to move my body, and then it's like a toilet flush, and the energy can flow out, and I get back into neutral. And in that point, I can then sit down and start meditating, or start really calming my system down. If I want to explore a deeper way, I usually take a retreat. I usually go to a place. I oftentimes do it throughout the Christmas time, after Christmas, for example, after the Christmas holidays, where I'm just by myself or with my wife, and we're just in nature, and we're just in quietness, taking time, doing nothing, basically. And I'm not meaning doing nothing, but doing nothing. To actually force ourselves to sit even when we get the urge to get up. And when we go through that barrier, then there's a space that opens up.
So it's always just right outside where you think you're at. And it's that, there's the word surrender, there's letting go, whatever you want to call it. If you just are patient, that extra little bit, everything sort of unfolds for the person.
Yeah, I mean, you have experience with that. What's your take?
Yes, to all the above. It could be, there's a million ways into your heart, and you got to be careful. If you always do the same thing for a bunch of years, it can wear out, and then your ego still takes that over. So you got to switch it up once in a while to push yourself a little out of your comfort zone so you can explore more. You're unlimited here is how I'd say it. So the more you keep going back to your heart, the more you'll keep discovering. How about that?
Yeah, I like that. We actually just did a retreat in England, of all places in the world. There's a college called the Arthur Findlay College, 125 years. It's dedicated to spiritism, psychic abilities, mediumship. And so we went for a week there, and were in the presence of mediums for a whole week. And to be in that energy and to be there was just an amazing way to calm the entire system down and to connect.
We had a graduate from that school described almost like Hogwarts, with a very specific calendar design for the mansion, based on, the number of windows might have been 365 for the number of days in the year, and all this intricate stuff. Very, very hard place to graduate from. I mean, they put you through the ringer, they train you. This gentleman was 2020 Psychic of the Year, Mark Lanehart, who has a show out of Seattle that's award-winning, and he just won an OM award. I forgot the magazine name exactly, but so he has done that. He's an American, did Coast Guard, and knew he needed more in his life. It wasn't satisfying doing the military thing. I come from a Coast Guard Navy family. And so he went to that college, and it is a heck of a place. So it's wild that you were just there. Can you talk to us? What would you want to share about your personal intuition that has served you well, or just trusting that there's more in us and around us? Can you help the folks who are still allowing for this to trust more of their own inner abilities? And for the veterans out there who have been healers this whole time for 20 years, 30 years, what advice do you have for their practices? So it's a double-edged question here.
Oh my God, I'm not sure whether I can answer the second question. For the first one, since I'm consider myself in the beginning stages, I think mostly the trust that we all have these abilities. And if we doubt ourselves, we cut ourselves off from, it's like turning the radio off. We cut ourselves off from the waves to know, go into the space with a knowingness that something is there, and to trust that, and then to practice on a daily basis to see whether you get insights. What works best for you, whether it's maybe out in nature or listening to a piece of music or doing a yoga retreat or something. We all have our own ways, but to connect to nature, look for the signs and make it a practice. And I wouldn't even dare to go to those who are
I'll help you out on that one. How about goal setting? Because I think you're a good manifester, if you want to call it that, or a goal setter, or when you spot a direction you should head in that you feel is aligned with the universe, doesn't feel like a lot's going to stop you. So how about goal setting? What's a tip? How often do you sit down and try to go big picture, think that circle again, 4 days, but vision questing for your own personal development, but also on the business front, like where can I take what I'm doing, in a new direction next? How do you challenge yourself there? I mean, obviously you've got that book you're working on. What's your tip for folks who are already running their businesses, but need that extra push?
My tip would actually be to acknowledge your personality, because I'm not a goal setter. My whole personality is not geared to goal setting. If I set goals, I hold myself accountable to them. I go like this, and all of the magic falls by the wayside, and I get grumpy and miserable. So to realize that we have our own MO, our own authentic personality that we need to discover if we want to achieve something. What works for me is to get inspired, then to speak to people about it, and there is something growing inside of me. And if I feel there's no dilemma, then I can move forward with it. And I feel pulled to writing the book. I feel pulled to creating the master program. I feel pulled to talk to organizations and do certain things. So there's no goal that I intentionally set, but I'm more in an asking place. Yeah, and for some reason that works for me, but it might not work for other people. So really to understand what your authentic personality is it more visionary and purpose-driven? Is it more goal-oriented? Is it more pragmatic? Is it more spacious? And to find those people around you who complement that. So I have a person in my team who has the ability to set goals and break it down very clearly, so she can hold me accountable to it, and we can create plans together.
Oh, fun.
And that really has worked well.
Fun. Okay. So do you do coaching? Can people hire you directly if they go to consciousbusinessinstitute.com? Obviously, you have a lot of offerings, the books, the articles, everything else, and you do consulting, you go into the workplace. But can people grab you for like one-on-one?
Yes, they can. I'm a little bit hesitant, of course, because of time. So I choose. We have a bunch of people who might be better fits than I am, depending on personality, that we've trained up in our methodology and that are working closely with us, and which I absolutely trust. But yes, short answer is yes. And there's also the online programs which we have on our learning site, which is also on the website, to just go put out and take one of those programs and see whether it resonates or not.
And okay, now going again in another one of these tangents, is there a panel you've been on lately that was just absolutely wonderful? You walked away saying, wow, that was a real feather in my cap. I enjoyed it thoroughly. It's going to be a good memory for a long time to come. Can you share with us what moment was that?
Yeah, actually, a couple of months ago, or just 6 weeks ago, we've created a conference together with the main organizers in Barcelona called the European Conscious Leaders Summit. So it brought people from mostly Europe, but also the United States and Asia together in Barcelona to speak about transforming the way we work. And I was co-hosting we called it a Learn Shop, about building thriving organizations, together with Timothy Henry, who is the founder of the co-founder of the Conscious Capitalism movement. And it's the first time we've been working together. So we set this up together and said, let's play together, let's try something. And it was just a magical experience. We had the room full of people, and it was just magical. It was magic between us, between Timothy and myself. You said that you saw the picture where we were just
I was going to ask, is this
the
the one I saw on Facebook? I think people can check it out if you track them down.
Yeah.
But it's where you were standing and you made eye contact. My microphone's right here as I look off to the side. And you made eye contact, but it wasn't about words. It wasn't about the frontal assault that we do through the mouth. It was presence merging with presence or feeling. But I'm going to let you take over from here and use actual descriptions of what was going on.
Yeah, we actually had the people check in a different way with each other. We had them look into each other's eyes. So we were just standing across from each other in pretty close distance, and we were just looking into each other's eyes, into each other's soul, essentially, without a word, without anything, but just being with each other. Again, being with each other.
Did anybody burst into tears or look away or get so uncomfortable they couldn't handle it?
Some people look away. I've done it in organizations. As a matter of fact, in my venture capital practice, we had a coach do something similar where we just roamed around the room, and then whenever you come by somebody, you look them in the eyes, and we couldn't do it. Most of them couldn't do it. And the reason was because we're afraid to drop our masks. No, we hold up a facade.
Well, you're spontaneously motivating me here to look at one little thing and read it out loud, if I can find it in time and not delay. But I wanted to ask you sort of a creative question. If you had to pick one indigenous or cultural experience to go and participate in for 3 months, it was South Africa, it's Hawaii, it's Indonesia, and I'm gonna buy you time to think about this, somewhere around the globe where you just think, I haven't really tasted that experience yet. You've done the 4-day Vision Quest experience a few times. And I wanted to read about Huna, love from Hawaii. And I think it was banned until 1975. It was illegal in Hawaii to be a kahuna just under American law. But Huna is not something I ever bring up on this show. And it's super simple. It's 7 premises. The world is what you think it is. All systems are arbitrary. Number 2, there are no limits. Separation is a useful illusion. 3, energy flows where attention goes. Everything has energy. 4, now is the moment of power. Everything is relative. 5, to love is to be happy with. All power, number 6, all power is within. Everything has power. And 7, effectiveness is the measure of truth. There's always another way to do anything. If it works, it's Huna, and you could just say love. And so I thought that was kind of inspiring, and I don't know why I just read that out loud, except would it be Hawaii and hanging out with tribal elders, or I'm going to get all the language wrong, or is it Aborigine in Australia? You've always had a fascination with the Maoran side of things in New Zealand. Is there one area, India? I mean, there's 50 of these around the globe, or hundreds.
Yeah. I would say there are 3. There actually Hawaii is something that I would love to spend more time with kahunas. Aborigines, you actually mentioned that, so you picked it up perfectly. And the third one is with the Native Americans of here in the United States. I feel a close affinity for some reason.
Now, clever men in Australia, there's a lot of history there with tens and tens of thousands of years. And a lot of stuff. That's a fun area to check out. Okay, back to the book. Can you tell us about Plan B? When did you first start planning it out? When did you start writing it? Are you almost wrapping it up? And where and how and who is publishing it and so on? And what's it all about?
Yeah, I mean, I've been, since I've worked with psychics for 20 years or so, they said, Peter, you need to write a book, you need to write a book, you need to write a book. They've seen books, and I have 4 or 5 books in the pipeline which I want to write and which I will write during the next 10 years probably. But this one I've started some time ago, probably 10 years ago, and then put to the wayside because I got busy with conscious business and picked it up again, worked with an editor on it, and then put it to the wayside again. And this last year I picked it up in March last year, and then started writing it and picked some things from the material that I had written over the last 10 years, but structured it in a completely new way, and then added the material and finished it off. And right now it's being laid out. It's going to be available in a month, mid-September. And I actually chose to self-publish it. I hired an organization which is actually doing all the work and putting it out into the market. So kind of a new form of publisher, but I did not like the traditional way of publishing and the way they handle copyrights. I think it's an open business model, and so I don't want to particularly support that.
Yeah, I think when I was, my little book, Listening to Angels, was That Sounds True, for I think a couple months. I'm not sure, nobody wanted to see their energy, even though they have classes for auras or meet any angels. So I'm not sure, but it was going to be a 2-year delay for actually coming out. And I think they wanted you to pull the book in the meanwhile, because I have it in electronic form. I wanted to ask, by the time this comes out, folks will be able to purchase it. Amazon?
Yeah, it's on Amazon to pre-order in Kindle form, and on the website we have a pre-order form where we actually package it up together with the book, the ebook. We give it at a reduced rate, and there's a possibility to get an online course which deepens the material and actually makes it a little bit more, just to ingrain it more in our system.
Can you tease us a little? Give us one hook. You gotta hook us, so that we want to take a look at the book. What is one jewel, golden nugget from the book? Because there are many in there. What's the tip? What's the advice? The 5-step, 3-step, 2-step, you should do this, how to look at this. There's got to be something you can share with us right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether I want to do that because it's not about take 3 steps and you're there. Because then we're in the old system of doing more and accumulating. This is really a manifesto for a different way to live. Many of us ask for a different way, and there's not a different approach out there that's viable in my eyes. So this book opens up this new pathway, this new approach. And the basis is this new success model, which asks you to be who you are yourself first. We've never been asked who we are really here to be. What's our authenticity? Nobody asks us in school who you are here to be authentically. We're being educated out of our authenticity in our lives. So we think we're authentic, but what if that's not the case? And what if we align with our authenticity, who we are really here to be? Then things fall into place. And from that place, we can then do something different in the world. So it opens up this different room of possibility that it's like describing how to taste an orange. You can't describe it, you gotta bite it.
And that was beautifully said at a lot of levels. Okay, but out of the frying pan into the fire, they say. So what is your authentic presence, role, path ahead, your life path, your purpose? I'm still skipping it. Your unique life path. I've got it. But only share the version of it that's the public version. You're at a cocktail party tomorrow or this afternoon on a yacht. And the point is, everybody knows you, but you're just, someone's like, talk to us about your passion. So broad strokes, what is it you do for people, companies? Let's hear it all over again.
In that form, I provide provide a new way to work and live, a way that's more fulfilling, more inspiring. And I provide the pathway to get there, and I provide really to make it real in our work and in our world, not just an idea or an inspiration, but how to actually walk to get there.
Less rat race, less thinking, less worry, stress, fear, doubt, more fun, more being. I love it. We're going to get to that point in the show where I'm going to take some sage. You can get this at any Whole Foods. I believe it's Juniper Ridge, the California company. I'm not affiliated or sponsored, but it is on my website. They have really stable, what am I trying to say? Amazing bundles of sage. They used to be $2. I think they're $20 today. Blame inflation. And also, 10 years later, I'm going to light some. Everyone catches the scent. It doesn't matter if it's 2026. You don't even need this lit. Just ask an angel or a Native American chief to bring you the smell. Some people start tasting it on their mouth the second I start lighting it. Welcome to being intuitive. That's you listening, watching out there. We did this before the show. We already know it works. So it's safe. Here's some smoke, a little bit of sage. Ooh, did I not get a great burn? Hold on. It's showing a little. And
there it is.
Peter Matthiees, if you don't mind, can you ask for a little extra? It doesn't have to be sage smell. Sage smell plus ocean, flowers, a bouquet of a gorgeous deep wine from Europe that you're like, oh, that's my favorite. What the heck? Ask the universe to surprise you a little extra. And then if you don't mind sharing out loud when you're ready.
I get a mountain lake, actually. Smell of a mountain lake.
Nice. Okay, I'm going to stuff this out.
Cold, fresh water smell.
Ooh, very nice. And if people need extra help, I've got goosebumps all over. They can just replay it. I know it sounds like you have to have this happen specifically for you, but just adopt this as your own experience and allow. What's the thing I always say? Allow, ask, and receive. I hope that made sense. I said it in the right order. And with your permission, can we get a topic from either an angel named Joy or Charlotte for you to say, aha, yes, I'd love to talk about that. But just ask them for a beautiful thread of conversation you can share with us. You have so much expertise. And that's Joy and Charlotte, two angels for folks. If you've watched
the first thing that obviously comes up, let's talk about balloons. But
yes.
But that was probably more my ego over my
Here, you can grab a topic.
Give me another choice.
Put your hand up to the screen, breathe, relax, get a whoosh down your back for anybody out there. Feel what you want to feel. Colors can change. I use usually Audrey Hepburn's photo, historical, or Sai Baba from India, but those photos can wink, smile, nod. And just hear a little topic that you're like, ah, yes.
Well, that's a bigger topic. I got a bigger topic, which is kind of expansion and evolution. The stuff that happens beyond the sphere of the earth, like the universal things.
Is it pertaining to mankind or beyond mankind?
More for mankind right now.
There's a lot happening. I'll put it that way. There's way too many shows that are speculating all the time. They've talked about the big shift, the Mayan calendar, the this, the that. I'm going to argue, and Seth, even in the 1970s, Jane Roberts, the whole New Age thing, Seth, light being, he talked about that any change, anything that you think you're seeking, it's not going to be found in the externals. It's through the world you know, through your heart, and into a greater reality. So with that, I'm punting this conversational football back to Peter. What is that greater reality again? What is that harmony we can experience more of? The more just inner peace in our daily lives, but also when we connect with others. Is there a way you want to talk about this? And I'll throw a spiritual hand grenade into the mix. Imagine being able to see everybody's energy. So if somebody tries to sell you a real estate deal, it's a bad portfolio, you should never do this. And you're seeing, I'm going to make it up, red light all over the guy. And you know, it's just not appropriate. If you see everybody's energy and you see their flows, consciousness itself, which you can do, you can see light on your hands and stuff like that. It does shift the dynamic a little. I'll throw that out as a suggestion for mankind is a little forced to grow into more awareness just by default because you're seeing what you're seeing. You're like, oh, I really like my fellow soccer team players over here. You're much more your harmony. You just know their moves ahead of time, just like good bandmates know how to play together. Chefs in the kitchen that like each other, not throwing stuff at each other. So can you talk to us more about that interconnectedness, the harmony? Because I think you've experienced a lot of that. I think you bring that to a lot of workplaces. I also think you're helping people individually grow. So there's something in there I know you can run with.
Yeah, a few things pop to mind. And I'm going to go with one strand at a time here. The first one is the one we speak about it, the harder it's to grasp it feels. So it's more of a sensing the isness, like when we breathe in and you just are silent for a moment and you listen to the silence between everything that's out there. There's a moment of stillness, like Eckhart Tolle says, and this moment of stillness is just pure presence, and you can't describe it other than just experience for a moment. So I feel that we are living in this moment of presence, all of us, and we make a big noise around, so we oftentimes forget that it's there, but it's really the container in which everything is, in which we are. And so my question that I'm asking myself oftentimes is, how do we evolve in this stillness? Where are we at as a human species? What wants to happen? And what I'm seeing personally is that there are that we are at a transition in our evolution, which many people speak about. I'm not the first one to do that. We do it with colors that we actually see in people. So if you look at the generation that we call the violets, the visionary leaders like Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, they came in the 60s and they brought in a kind of more purpose-driven, visionary, inspiring perspective to life. And most of them got either put into prison or killed because it was quite dangerous. Like, fast forward 30 years, everybody of us has a vision and has a purpose. So if you look at the children that are coming to the world, 80% now want a job that has a purpose. So it's like Martin Luther King, you're not the only one anymore. We're all doing this right now. So there's definitely an evolutionary trend. That's the violet age, as I call it. The indigo age that will be coming next, which we are teeing up for, is that we are more interconnected. Indigo personalities, the most well-known one was Michael Jackson. So you can see that he had a different personality. There's an androgynous kind of personality around him, but there's a different sense of connection to the earth, to the world, to other people, that we just sense that there's something bigger out there. I give you an example of one little kid that's an indigo green in this in our color scheme. He was 6 years old. He was at school, preschool, and was just running around and saw that one of his kids, something was not quite right. And he went to his parents and said, you need to do something. Something is happening at his parents. And so they went to the parents' house and they were fighting, they were separating, and this little kid was being left in the ditch, basically. So this little indigo child was able to pick that up, not knowing why, where, how. So we're moving into this indigo age where we're much more interconnected. So when we think about all the stress, the struggle, the changes, the uncertainty, the climate change, everything that we're dealing with in our world, we have to realize that it's not just our work to transition through this. There's a big midwife out there, which is already delivering the child, and we are just here to to support, maybe.
I like that. I think I don't ask too many big picture questions in the last 10 or 12 years of angels, like who killed Kennedy and stuff like that. But I did ask once about mankind the path unfolding for mankind. I'll probably ask that a lot, but it was more related to compassion. We can all use a little more compassion, gentleness, kindness, and that is in the works. And so something that one of the angels, who's a super gentle angel, said, it's not up to mankind to fix anything. And they were very forceful about that, which just, sort of points towards a bigger picture that we're just a part of. And I thought that was just absolutely fascinating. It doesn't mean you and I go and start a factory and put up 50 smokestacks instead of 3, but it is, there's just a bigger picture, and trust a little more in the flow, and trust in everything unfolding perfectly as it is. I'm going to do a little something unusual. I'm going to light a Bic lighter, and anyone at home can just say what color they see: yellow, gold, orange. If you want to volunteer a color, it's a standard American Bic lighter. What do you see, Peter?
I see yellow, golden.
Perfect. Now I'm going to put my hand up. You can see any color you want. I'll see if I can go on an old bodyboarding trip in Florida or Hawaii. 1 second. And see if you can catch a little bit of light off my finger and just say what you see.
A little blue, violet there.
Beautiful. No wrong answers. And I'm going to just bring a couple Native American chiefs in, again, for topics or generic wisdom. No such thing as generic. No such thing as wisdom. It just is. Trying to be punny. Here's Dull Knife, who's wisdom with some humor. And anyone out there wants to catch an extra bit of sage, again, sweetgrass, desert pignol, tobacco, leather, you can catch that at home, and there's nothing being lit. And you might as well get a hug or something in the air for yourself, Peter. Let me know when I can pull back. Okay. What'd you get? What would you like to share, or in what direction do you feel carried right now?
And to do a little meditation, maybe.
Ooh, and that would be amazing, especially coming from you. Can you give us some form of how do we just, if it's the airplane getting ready to leave the hangar, what do we do?
We're just going to go into a situation that you might feel stressful, struggle, frustration with, whoever's going to listen to this, and see how you're doing, how you're trying to solve the situation. And then we're going to shift it to more of a being state and see what changes inside of you and how it changes the situation.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes.
Here we go.
Yes.
All right. I was waiting for the prompt.
We were doing the Barcelona stare thing. That was awesome.
So I like to close my eyes. You can take your glasses off if you want to. Michael, you don't have some, but I'm just going to close my eyes, and just if you breathe with me, take a deep breath in. Just hold it for a little bit. And then exhale and just sink deeper into the chair. Feel your feet on the ground. Just relax. As you breathe in again. Hold it for a little bit. And again, just relax that space behind your eyes. Make your mouth a dome. Turn your face into a plum instead of a prune. Relax the space behind your heart, your solar plexus, your legs, your feet. Just become heavy for a moment. And into this space, just bring a situation, medium-sized, nothing too heavy, that's causing you trouble. Whether you're frustrated with something, a person that you're in a conflict with, worry that you have maybe around money. Just bring that situation to life and realize how it makes you feel. Can you feel a tension? Can you feel some contraction? And notice where you feel it in your body. For me, it's in my solar plexus, for example. And then look at how you used to approach the situation. Are you looking to do something different, do something more to solve this problem? What do I need to do differently? Just notice what comes up in your mind. And the second question is, what's missing? There's a lack in that situation and you're missing something, maybe money, maybe respect from the other person, maybe peace of mind. What are you trying to get in order to alleviate the situation? And lastly, once you have that, once you think everything is okay again, what would you become? Are you becoming happy finally? Are you becoming respected? Are you becoming connected to somebody? What's the thing that you become as a result of it? By doing that, by accumulating what was missing. You can maybe sense that this approach is causing you frustration or it's causing you tension. So you have to do something. I want you to take a deep breath again. And just sink a level deeper into your being. Feel your feet on the ground. Sense your heart. And as you keep breathing deep, every time you inhale, you expand your aura a little bit. You expand your energetic field until it takes up the entire room that you're sitting in. And just be for a moment. There's nothing you need to do. Know that you're taken care of. Know that everything's okay right now. Everything you need is right here. Everything who you need to be is right here. From this place, I want you to engage in that situation again. Just showing up at peace with the person that you might have a conflict with. Being at peace when you notice that there's not enough money. Can you notice a difference in how you deal with a situation in that way? You might feel the weight of the situation diminishing. You might feel peace of mind in the face of this situation. And as we come back, just bring this being state back into the room. Just take a deep breath. Hold for a moment. And as you exhale, you can gently open your eyes and come back.
That was nice. And I was seeing your aura before we did all this, and during it, a lot of light here. And I'm sure there was something else. Yawned a couple times, and I was following you. I like that a lot. That was very pleasant. If somebody wanted more of that, is it Udemy? Is it your book? Is it another place where you've put Peter Matthiees into that type of instruction, how can they grab that? Or is it my
yeah,
show?
the show. We listen to that thing over and over.
Yes, we did good then. That was exactly what we had been talking about. Being by doing, doing by being. And here on the show, instead of having to talk topics, it was an actual experience. And yeah, I think you demonstrated that exceptionally well.
In the book, there's a link to the online course, and in that online course, there are several meditations like this to download. So
perfect. One more figure for you, although I probably just lied. It'll probably be Audrey Hepburn as the final grand finale. But Sai Baba, the one from 100 years ago from India, since we're just coming off, like my eyes are blurry now in a good way. I feel extremely relaxed, but I still have to be a show host. Sai Baba, the one from 100 years ago. Now, if folks want to allow him to move, smile, wink. And if you want to catch an Indian temple scent, you can do that as well. And I'll pull back because I have a color version that's even better. And let him do his job. Catch what you can catch at the word level. If you want to, he's compassion straddles Hindu stuff, Buddhism, and one more Islam. But he's Mr. Miracles, if you ask me. I love this guy. And you got what you got, right?
Enormously present.
Yes. But if you want to put a hand out, either to the photo or like you're getting 50 euro, look down in your hand and see light. And if you're seeing the light, you can bring it in for a heart hug. But with that, is there a topic or something that, yeah, exactly. Is there something you can share with us that Sai Baba just inspired, reminded you of, suggested? What is it?
Well, it reminded me of that I'm usually not very clear sentient. I don't smell. I see things. So I guess we all have our channels that we work with in a better way, in some way, and that we can train in other ways. So for me, that's always a thing. I just admire his presence.
Yeah, he's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, before I get to Audrey Hepburn, we'll wrap up the figure thing. But Geronimo, older Geronimo, who steals the show. If it's 100 plus angels and people have shown trepidation in the last decade, like, oh, I'm not sure I want to meet him, I'm scared. They come out and they're like, he's my very favorite. He's very direct. Dull knife, red shirt, formal, proper, yes, no. But he's like, yeah, nah, duh. You already know the answer. He's like a lightning bolt. So he's very inspirational. Here's older Geronimo. And can you get a mantra from him that would apply to us all? A quick reminder to blah, blah, blah. I'll fill in the words just for a second to buy you time, but to be that fearless, peaceful inner warrior that you discussed with Gandhi and Martin Luther King, but in your own way.
What comes is say it as it is and say it with compassion.
That was beautiful. Thank you for doing that. One more, Audrey Hepburn, an angel. I describe her as half Grace, but there's an angel named Grace. So she's in that little cabal. It's a fun clique. Harmony, joy, faith, hope, Grace. And there's a Presley. She's the interconnectedness of all. She got short shrift on those names. So she wrote in on Elvis Presley movies. Here's Audrey Hepburn. So she's half Grace, half sparkle in the moment. Got to have sparkle, got to have fun, got to let go and let it fly. Just as Geronimo is sort of saying. But here's Audrey. Once again, people can let her move, wink, smile, eyebrow goes up in the photo. Catch a French perfume that's yet to be invented, or a better smell if you can think of which direction you want to go with that. Let her do her job. And tell me when, Peter, and I'll pull back. And
I don't get anything from her right now.
Oh, okay. I was just seeing a little white ball of light off to my right. That wraps it up on that side. What else can you leave us with for a reminder to keep it simple, keep it fun, and keep it you, which doesn't have to make sense to make sense. What's your final bit of like vision questing for all of us? What's your reminder for us to do our unique, authentic selves?
Yeah, there's one little thing that really helped me a lot, because if we want to shift away from an old way, we're shifting to something new. And what is that going to be? What's that one thing that really is differentiating? And we call this essences. And it might help all of us because we might not quite know our purpose yet. We might not quite know what really our authenticity is, but we can follow the path of essences, and it will lead us in the direction of our authenticity. So if we live an essence-rich life, as we called it, we travel the good red road, as the Native Americans like to call it, our authentic path. And so this is a very simple thing that we all can do. Essences are the feeling states that we experience when we do something. Life is not a doing experience, it's a feeling experience. Everything that we do, whether it's drinking an orange juice in the morning or watching a particular movie at night, is to experience a feeling state. It's not to achieve something. If you want to have 10 million bucks in the bank, it's not about the money, it's about the feeling that you associate with the money. Freedom, abundance, peace of mind, for example. If you want to have the house by the beach, it's not the house that you want, but the feeling experience you associate with it, like achievement, like beauty, for example. So everything we do in life, every empowered thing, every authentic thing that we do in life is to experience a specific essence or certain essences. So if you ask me, that's really important, because if I know my essences, I can steer my life towards living more essences. If I take a job that doesn't fulfill my essences but gives me money and I hope to get essences in the back door, it usually leads to dissatisfaction. So the point is that we all have a bouquet of 12 to 15 essences which drive our entire life. So let me ask you, Michael, if you engage in a relationship, what are you looking for? 2 or 3 things in terms of feeling states.
Acceptance, unconditional love, spontaneous joy, just an appreciation for life, and interacting with the surroundings. How about that? 4 essences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you look at your profession, if you are there any overlaps of those that you would spill over into your profession?
Yeah, I mean, all of that, because I'm here to help people meet their own angels, which I rarely get to do because I help people meet so many angels on the front end. And, MLK, not yet, but Gandhi and the one from South Africa, Mandela, yes. So people can meet and chat with them. So it's wonderful, but it's also scary. So I'm still feeling like I'm an outlier. I think I've got the word. 10 or 12 years later, even though I've got photographs of angels, people can do this as a group as they did at Omega, but it's still a little bit of not a challenge. I'd say it's still an opportunity for me to grow a greater sense of awareness, patience, compassion. And then angels have me in a pool every day, sometimes 3 times a day, so I can do more just allowing, and they can get into my ball of energy that's me. And I keep hearing it keeps getting bigger, unfolding wise. If it was New York City me, the one from 19 years in New York City, public relations guy, 2 years on Wall Street, I would judge this very harshly and say the last 12 years I could have gotten done in a year. But that's not the way this is meant to work. And so I've met more and more wonderful people. They've been wonderful at the beginning. I get judged a little bit. Not everybody is excited a week later after meeting angels. Some people like to sling arrows. That happens. And then they'll talk to me nice 2 years later. It's just a process. I'd love to have a team I could hand folks off to after they've met angels to kind of depressurize. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. But you mentioned a couple of things, like in your personal relationship, you mentioned acceptance and spontaneity and being unconditional love. So in your job, you mentioned also acceptance is important. It's that, yeah. Loving the people that you work with, maybe, probably too, huh? Yeah.
Yes.
So you see that in our life, although it's completely different areas, our job, our personal life, our body, all those kind of things, we still are driven by the same essences in most areas, which is really curious because our life is basically steered by these 12 to 15 essences, why we do everything. So if you ask me, I want to know those 12 to 15 things, because then I can deliberately create that in my life, in my job, in my personal relationships. So if we can explore those essences and just say, what are really the things that I'm seeking for in all of these areas? First of all, we find those overlaps. We can create our bouquet of essences. Secondly, what we can do is we can create those essences proactively in our life. So if I want to have $10 million in the bank, I might find out what I really seek is freedom or peace of mind. There are many ways I can create this freedom or peace of mind in my life. I can just sit in a cafe and have a sip of coffee and watch people walk by. I can take a stroll down the park, for example. Our body does not distinguish the way we experience freedom. Freedom this way or that way is exactly the same way. So we can nurture this sense of freedom, the feeling state that we want to experience in our life, and thereby become more freedom. So it enriches our lives. So I found it a super simple, not easy, super simple and very, very powerful way to steer our life into the direction that's more life-giving, that's more authentic, that's more fulfilling, purpose-driven, if we know our essences and follow those.
And is that in your book, Plan B?
It is actually, yes.
Good. So people are going to now be all over this book once this show comes out. So I love it. Well, Peter, is there anything else you'd like to share with us? Still lots more learning to do and still more material to deliver to us, I expect, down the road, since you mentioned all these other books that have been kind of floating around for a little bit. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
Maybe just as a final thing, which I'm saying more to myself than to anyone else. Because I'm in a transition myself right now, and when I just spoke to a psychic, and he told me something that resonated very much, to go from what I'm creating and doing all these things that I've done to actually becoming a lake, he called it, and to just showing up as a lake and reflect back to people. And so that's a big transition. It sounds very simple, but that's a big transition. And many people feel like they're in a transition. It's like, I'm overwhelmed. What's the path forward? Can I be better? Can I do more? And to actually just encourage ourselves to stop and to notice that exactly this dilemma that we are in must happen right here and now, because we are transitioning into a new being state. And it requires us to shed all the other things that we used to do. And it's always associated with some pain or some letting go. And to just allow ourselves to be in this space, knowing that we're not alone, that we're being supported, and to follow the track that's unfolding in front of us.
Well, that was a big share, and it sparked a little thing at this end, which 7 months, I've been running for 40 years. So you get out on a run, any emotions that are percolating around, or you have resistance to something, will pop up early in the run, sometimes defeat your run, and you're walking home because you're just not in a mental state to keep going. That's pretty rare. But if you've learned to get past that, you get to have a longer and longer run. You get to let go. Your brain starts going in different directions. And so one of the things that I've not found the words for this, but I'm going to take a stab. You just inspired me. What happens when scientists start listening to Einstein to get their answers? What happens when the Buddhist community can meet Buddha, Thich Nhat Hanh, Kuan Yin, Chogyam Trungpa? I mean, people can already meet him, and I've had a Buddhist chaplain meet Buddha and so on. But what happens when the different communities get exactly what they've technically been asking for? More listening to the universe, more receiving, more love, more compassion, more gentleness. And I did throw that, I called it a spiritual hand grenade out, that you can just see flows of energy. It may take a concert. It may take being on a boat this afternoon, having cocktails, enjoying a sunset and pleasant company, to see the harmonic vibes flowing between people. You can see those flows. You have to go a little loosey-goosey. But when that happens, boy, is that going to be interesting for where does mankind go? Because a lot of the problems, obstacles that we think we either face personally or at a societal level can start to evaporate pretty quickly, just with listening. Less conflict, more solutions, more fun, without telling people how to be.
Yeah. So we become the observer.
Yeah, and you keep
Don't
hitting.
need to do anything.
Yeah, and that's something I did not mention during the show. When you mentioned Eckhart Tolle, there was that moment he's on a property and he sees a particular sign. And the sign said something in it. I don't remember what it said in it, but he realized it actually had another meaning to that sign. And it was incredible. But unfortunately, you'll have to read A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, which I do recommend. But anybody out there having trouble falling asleep at night, they still are doing lots of thinking, stressing, and worrying, it's the perfect book for you. You will get 2 paragraphs in, your brain will say, I'd rather have you sleep than to read this material, because it's kind of what's the word, light, illumination, maybe angel writing. But either way, the brain says, no way, Jose, on the book, and you will be out like a light in just 3 minutes. You've been an insomniac up until this point. You will be able to sleep like a baby by just having that by your bedstand. You'll never finish the book. 2 years looking at a page, you'll start to yawn, you will fall asleep. Your brain will want to resist. Your ego, your psyche does not want you to read that at all. So do not read A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, and do not read Plan B by Peter Matthiees. That's www.planbe, like being, .live, L-I-V-E. Also his website, Conscious Business Institute, just as it sounds, .com, We've had Peter Matthiees on Angels, Positivity, and Love. I have to thank you. You gave a great interview today.
Thanks so much, Michael. It was super fun.
Well, and hopefully we'll have you on back in 2024 with one of your retreats, projects, and so on. You'll let us know if you're interested in that. Thank you again, Peter Matthiees in Santa Barbara, for joining us on Angels, Positivity, and Love.
Take care. Thank you.